Sonbhadra, located in the southeast district of Uttar Pradesh in India. In this small village of Alehi Kala, the morning today is a little busier than usual. Chores are being wrapped up as early as possible for the arrival of a team from the National Centre for Vector-Borne Diseases Control, an initiative under the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. The team is here to conduct its second round of DDT spraying in the village as communicated to the villagers 2 weeks before, as per guidelines for indoor residual spray. The team makes sure they cover every corner of the house that are common resting spots for mosquitoes. For the locals, this activity brings a sigh of relief. Sonbhadra is one of the worst malaria-affected districts in the country.
सोनभद्र 4 राज्यों से घिरा हुआ है। कहीं जंगल हैं, पहाड़ हैं, झरने हैं, नदियां हैं, बहुत ज़्यादा रिजर्वायर्स हैं, इसलिए यहाँ मलेरिया का प्रकोप देखने को मिलता है। सन 2016 में जब मेरी यहाँ पोस्टिंग हुई तो हमने देखा मलेरिया यहाँ पर 7,300 से ज़्यादा केसेस थे।
The use of DDT has been critical to bring down malaria cases, not only in Uttar Pradesh but around the world.
इसका काफ़ी लंबा इफेक्ट होता है, लगभग 70 दिन का इसका 75 दिन का इफेक्ट होता है और लगातार स्प्रे करने के बाद हम 2021 के एंड में हम पाते हैं कि ये केसेस 2000 से कम हो गए।
Districts like Sonbhadra are one of a handful left still using DDT for vector control globally. India is the only producer of DDT in the world, even though it is illegal to import in 102 countries and banned for vector control in 56 countries.
DDT को तो प्रेशर है कि कम से कम यूज किया जाए और होना भी कम चाहिए, इसलिए कि थोड़ा पब्लिक हजार्ड्स हेल्थ प्रॉब्लम तो है, लेकिन मजबूरी है कि हमारी मलेरिया को कंट्रोल करने के लिए DDT एक इम्पॉर्टेंट टूल किट्स है जिससे कि हमें मजबूरी में यूज करना पड़ा।
The story of Sonbhadra stems from vectors, in this case mosquitoes, and the vector-borne diseases they carry like malaria. Vector-borne diseases are human illnesses caused by parasites, viruses and bacteria that are transmitted by vectors. Vectors are mostly blood-sucking insects which ingest disease-producing microorganisms during a blood meal from an infected host and later transmit it into a new host during a bite. For instance, malaria, which is caused by Plasmodium parasites, is transmitted through the infected female Anopheles mosquitoes. Malaria is the most lethal vector-borne disease, accounting for the majority of deaths globally. In the 20th century alone, malaria claimed between 150 to 300 million lives. With 93% of the population at risk of malaria, India has traditionally spent around 1/3 of its national health budget on malaria control, relying significantly on one broad-spectrum insecticide, dichloro-diphenyl trichloroethane or DDT.
In our country, 9 malaria vectors are there. If you see African countries which are contributing 90% of malaria of globe, even they are having 2 vectors. But in our country, we are having 9 vectors, 6 are primary vectors, 3 are secondary vectors.
India began using DDT in the 1940s when malaria infections were rampant. At the time of India's independence, around 22% of the country's population was estimated to suffer from malaria. To combat this, the National Malaria Control Program was launched in 1953, dramatically improving the situation. By 1965, reported incidences declined to 0.1 million cases with 0 deaths. However, due to a lack of adequate health infrastructure and surveillance, malaria resurged to 6.46 million cases in 1976. India sought to re-adopt DDT, but by then attitudes had changed significantly. In 1972, the USA, the nation that introduced DDT to the world, declared a complete ban on domestic use. Rachel Carson first provided the impetus for the ban with her 1962 book Silent Spring, which revealed that spraying DDT to control insects was not just killing vectors but reached far up in the food chain. Research further established links between DDT and cancer, nervous disorders, and reproductive dysfunction. DDT was found to be a toxic, persistent, and bioaccumulative substance. Later, it was listed as persistent organic pollutant.
It is persistent because it stays in the environment for a very, very long time. It's transboundary and it has got huge amount of human health and ecological impacts.
In 1997, efforts were initiated on a global scale to deal with POPs through the United Nations Environment Programme. A legal and binding treaty called the Stockholm Convention was negotiated to enact global bans and restrictions on POPs. The first list identified 12 such chemicals, the dirty dozen. DDT was included.
Countries that are party to the Stockholm Convention on Persistent Organic Pollutants can only produce and/or use DDT for disease vector control, in accordance with the World Health Organization recommendations and guidelines on the use of DDT, and when locally safe, effective, and affordable alternatives are not available. As of January 2023, there are 18 parties listed in the DDT register, including India.
India signed the Stockholm Convention in May 2002 and ratified it in 2006. Although India banned the use of DDT as a pesticide for agriculture in 1989, it is exclusively used in vector disease control as per WHO guidelines until economically viable and environmentally suitable alternatives can be scaled. This is when the United Nations Environment Programme and the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, supported by the Global Environment Facility, came together to support India's development and uptake of non-POPs alternatives to DDT.
The United Nations Environment Programme collaborates on a range of activities to protect people and nature from the negative effects of chemicals, including DDT. On the request of the Stockholm Convention, UNEP prepared a roadmap for the development of alternatives to DDT. The roadmap really guides at all scales for a sustainable transition away from DDT and towards safe, effective, affordable, and environmentally sound alternatives.
UNEDO mandate is to promote any industrial scale-up in the country. Through this project, we have been able to promote and industrialize or commercialize 3 products which have been indigenously developed, namely LLIN, neem-based products, as well as BT-based biopesticides.
DDT targets mosquitoes in their adult form, but there is a more effective way of dealing with insects: Integrated Vector Pest Management, or IVPM. IVPM targets mosquitoes at different stages of its life cycle by using locally available and sustainable methods. One of the major targets of the UNEP and UNEDO project is to strengthen India's IVPM program. Government health officials working in different malaria endemic zones of Uttar Pradesh are being trained in the latest IVPM practices. The training is led by Nagpur-based research organization, the National Environment Engineering Research Institute, otherwise known as CSIR NERI.
NERI has been working for management of chemicals and management of hazardous chemicals, including POPs. And we have been working on all JEP projects related to Stockholm Convention in India. When alternatives to DDT were developed, NERI was given a task. We had to work for the development of modules for the training of the trainers across the India for use of non-DDT alternatives for mosquito control or vector control in general.
4 modules we have developed, and in addition to this module we have developed the FAQ, frequently asked question, and for the awareness among the community some IEC material, that is information, education and communication material in the form of folder, wall sticker or some awareness pamphlets, that we have also brought out.
Almost 10 training programs NERI has so far conducted for malaria officers, health officers. Despite COVID pandemic, we could train not less than 600 people across the India, and that too the states most affected by vector-borne diseases.
The basic purpose of this training, let's have some alternative for DDT. We are very thankful to NERI to conduct such kind of training. It is the first time that we have certain training with related vector control and environmental control.
India's IVPM program focuses on 3 key alternatives to DDT. The first being long-lasting insecticidal nets or LLINs. LLINs are factory-treated mosquito nets made with netting material that has synthetic pyrethroid incorporated within or coated around the fibers. Mosquitoes are usually active during the night while their prey is asleep. These nets act as a barrier and are easy to install and maintain. Each net remains effective for at least 20 standard washes. In the small village of Buddhadhani, Odisha, a team from the district health department is training the villagers about how to use LLINs for protection against malaria mosquitoes after the rainy season. Kandmal is another malaria endemic region and was reliant on DDT for many years. But now DDT usage has drastically declined.
2015, 16, 17 में तो मलेरिया का प्रादुर्भाव इतना था, प्रति 1000 लोग में 50 या 48 to 49 लोग बीमार में पड़ रहे थे और उससे कुछ डेथ भी कर जा रहे थे. तो LLN जब से आ गया तो आबाल वृद्ध बनी, जैसे कि बोले कि ग्राउंड टू टॉप लेवल सबको हम बांट दिया है. जिला में 4.86 लाख मच्छरदानी बांटा गया है एमंग 7.8 लाख पॉपुलेशन, जिसके चलते 2018 में रिपोर्ट आया ऑल ऑफ सडन 90% केस डिक्लाइन, यानी कि 35-36 हज़ार जो रिपोर्ट हो रहा था सालाना वो आके पहुंच गया 4000 या 5000 में.
आशाकर्मी और आंगनवाड़ी दोनों आके समझाए गांव वाले को, एक खटिया पकाओ, उसके अंदर मच्छरदानी बिछा के सो जाओ, तो डीडीटी के इतना इस्तेमाल करना नहीं पड़ेगा. जब से हम लोग मच्छरदानी का इस्तेमाल किया है उसी दिन से हमारे गांव में कम से कम 100 से 90% कम हो गया.
In 2009, the National Center for Vector-Borne Diseases Control introduced a limited supply of 2.23 million LLINs. Their impact was so substantial that it encouraged the government to procure another 4.8 million pieces from the international market to meet the demand in high-risk malaria endemic districts. Now, with support from UNEP and UNIDO, LLINs are manufactured on home turf with the help of 2 key organizations. The Chennai-based Central Institute of Petrochemicals Engineering and Technology, or CIPET, developed the master batch, and the Maharashtra-based government enterprise HIL India Limited manufactures LLINs on a large scale, generating employment for the local women of the district.
CIPET has developed a know-how for making a master batch so that one can manufacture a long-lasting impregnated net. This master batch contains certain additives and especially the insecticide. Usually in a polymer what happens is that when a low molecular weight chemicals is present in the polymer, over a period of time it comes out so that it can have the effectiveness on the controlling the mosquitoes.
The second important alternative is BTI. BTI, or Bacillus thuringiensis israelensis, is a bacterium which produces toxins against mosquito larvae, helping to destroy them. endotoxins released by Bacillus species are species-specific, environmentally safe, and are unlikely to induce resistance in vectors. Thus, it's an effective alternative to DDT. Recently, an Indian strain of BTI has been developed by the Vector Control Research Center based in Puducherry.
We started working on isolating bacilli for the control of mosquito larvae. So we collected water samples, dead insects, and other samples from different parts of the country. One strain, which we designated it as VCRC B17, gave very effective control. It was able to kill larvae of all the three major species of vectors, Anopheles, Culex and Aedes.
This particular strain has become now Indian standard strain, tested locally against local vectors. And when we sent this strain from VCRC to Pasteur Institute, it was tested there by Dr. D. Burjak. So she wrote back to us that she found this strain of VCRC as effective as the global strain.
Field trials have already been carried out in urban areas to demonstrate operational feasibility, and the results are extremely promising. The last alternative is neem. Neem in India is known as a household remedy against many illnesses. The active limenoid ingredient in neem, called azadirachtin, is a suitable alternative to DDT if developed as a botanical product.
They are insect repellent. They break the life cycle of larvae and mosquitoes. So we started looking for sources of limonides. Of the many trees that we looked, neem was found to be the most effective source of limonides because it has very high content of azadirachtin.
The National Botanical Research Institute is cloning and propagating higher limonoid yielding varieties of neem using tissue culture.
We were successful in propagating the plants through stem cuttings. We tried many media. Vermiculite was found to be the best, and many months, many rooting hormones we tried. So plants were raised and these were shifted to 5 multi-location trials. Through these locations we have tried to cover almost entire variability of the country.
Along with scaling up neem plantations, the project is also focusing on developing the products. The Institute of Pesticide Formulation Technology is a key partner in this effort.
We at IPFT, we initiated the development of greener alternatives to DDT and these chemicals. We initiated the development of neem-based formulations as a safer and greener alternative to DDT. The suspension concentrate and surface spreading formulation and tablet formulation we developed to address the egg stage, larvae stage and pupae stage. Then we developed mosquito repellent skin cream for protection from mosquito bites. Then we have developed neem-based mosquito repellent for household application, that is also for prevention from mosquito bites in households.
The scale-up of the technology is already on the ground. HIL India Limited is setting up plants for large-scale production of BTI and neem-based products in one of their factories in India. While India is making great strides in developing these alternatives, developing a clear regulatory framework is equally important.
Our task was to look at the entire enviro-legal space within which these alternatives will now fit in. And if it has to fit in, then what are the legal reforms required? So that was our primary task. We've done a gap analysis. We've also given recommendations of what needs to change and how. Of course, what is left is the nitty-gritties of the legal drafting itself. So we are actually looking forward to the government to understand those gaps and then hopefully draft these legislations and the amendments. If we can tweak the law a bit, then I think we'll have a pretty robust framework on alternatives to DDT.
To help producers, registration holders and users transition to DDT alternatives, Toxics Link, an environmental NGO that works on toxic substances, is working on guidance documents for all three alternatives.
Tomorrow some industry will come for setting up plant on LLN or maybe BT products or maybe for neem based products. So they can get access to this document, very simplified, it has been documented, and they can get to know what is I have to do as an industry for setting up my industry, as well as for the registration holders. They can get to know what are the regulations, what are the policies in place. Users also come to know how it will use it, how it can be disposed. So we have prepared a comprehensive note based on the existing regulation policies available in the country.
The planned phase out of DDT production and use is an established government priority. 4 states, Haryana, Gujarat, Maharashtra and Tamil Nadu, have already phased out the use of DDT. In addition, the demand for DDT has declined dramatically. From 2019 to 2020, National Centre for Vector-Borne Diseases Control procured 1,956 metric tons of DDT, whereas last year only 1,110 metric tons was bought. The country has achieved an 83% reduction in malaria morbidity and a 92% reduction in malaria mortality between 2000 and 2019. One of the factors contributing to this achievement are strong health departments in malaria endemic zones, supported by local unsung heroes.
मी या भाताने PSC मध्ये 10 वर्षापासून काम करते आहे. मी जेव्हा माझ्या एरियामध्ये जाते, ताई म्हणे आहे का घरात 10 ते 12 घरांचा मी डेली सर्वे करते. तेव्हा मी लोकांना आरोग्य सल्ला देते. ताप असेल तर मी त्यांची ब्लड सॅम्पल घेऊन पॅक करते आणि आमच्या लॅब टेक्निशियन मॅडमकडे मी तपासायला देते. त्यामध्ये मी कंटेनर सर्वे करते. ते जर उघडे असतील तर त्या कंटेनरवर झाकण ठेवण्याचा सल्ला देते आणि पाण्याचे गटारे जर भरलेले असतील त्या गटारामध्ये एनाफिलिस मादीचा डास असतो. त्या डासामुळे आपल्याला तो डास चावल्याने आपल्याला मच्छर होऊ शकतो. त्या पाण्याचा वाहता निचरा करायला सांगते.
In Palghar district, Maharashtra frontline workers like Tanuja are key to success against vector-borne diseases. Once riddled with malaria, Palghar stopped using DDT a decade ago. Bringing down the number of cases with the help of multiple IVPM methods such as active and passive case finding with the help of trained frontline workers. Using biological solutions like gambusia fish in the water sources that acts as a natural prey for the mosquito larvae, and a continuum of awareness campaigns for the local population.
Using long-lasting nets, breeding precious destructions, also prompt treatment of patients. This has yielded very good results, and right now, after 10 to 15 years of very high surveillance and good activities, now there are very minimal cases.
टीम का जो एफर्ट्स है, हेल्थ अवेयरनेस लोगों में काफ़ी हो गया है कि क्या करना चाहिए क्या नहीं करना चाहिए. उसके साथ साथ इन्वेस्टिगेशन भी कर रहे हैं. ओपीडी में जो डेली पेशेंट्स आते हैं, इसमें जो बुखार का पेशेंट है, एवरी फीवर पेशेंट का हम लोग BS कलेक्शन करते हैं और जांच करते हैं.
2022 ते 2023 पर्यंत एकही मलेरिया पेशंट नाही आहे.
The production and promotion of DDT alternatives, alongside government support, will eliminate the country's reliance on DDT. India plans to be malaria-free by 2030. With that, a DDT-free future is possible.